Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Refuge from Narcissism, and this refugee video is sponsored by contribution from Mike. And here is the story. Hi, Ollie. This is Mike. I'm sorry to hear about what happened to your wife. I wish her a safe recovery in the next few weeks ahead. You mentioned you were looking for stories, so I wanted to send you another one from my Toxic Workplace series. The first story you did for me was entitled Enjoy the View, which covered a toxic work environment at a startup I worked in from 2014 to 2015. The sequel is about the school district, which you did recently and split into two videos that covered 2016 and 17. Things have been great since, thank God. So now you've had the original and the sequel. I felt it was time for the prequel. The story isn't so much about asking for advice, although I always love to hear your opinions on my stories. You clearly connect to episodes in your own life, and they are fascinating. The story is more about a recap of the toxic work environments I've been in and a warning to young people starting their careers. My first job out of university was at a consulting firm. It was the year 2000. I didn't have much notice before I started the gig, which was located in a town called Bedford. So the best I could do was stay with a friend of the family in a place called Berry Park in Luton. If you Google that place, you'll see it's just about the worst place you can live in the UK. The journey was made up of 3 legs: walking, a train, and then a bus. It took me about 90 minutes to get to work. I did try to find a place to rent in Bedford, but there was nothing available. The manager was very disconnected and let me know it was a real inconvenience to answer any questions I had. He ignored me for most of the day. Being nervous and in my first job, I had a lot of questions, so this created initial tension. I was pretty miserable, but I got a shock one day when I was called into the department head's office. The manager was sitting there and there was a notepad in front of him with times listed on it. This is the UK where we start work at 9 a.m. The times read off like this: 8:57 a.m., 9:03 a.m., 9:10 a.m., 9:59 a.m., etc., etc. You get the picture. He had literally been writing down the exact minute I had walked in. No credit for being early or staying late, but a few minutes late in the morning, and that was a problem. I was at the mercy of the British public transport system, and he couldn't care less. I was also upset that he had never once raised this as an issue. The first I found out about it was when I saw it on the notepad. This really dropped my morale. Right. This is a guy, because this is a guy who's looking to justify his own position by getting rid of other people, acting like, oh, I'm counseling, I'm doing this with this person can't even show up on time. But in the meantime, see, like, if you had a decent HR is like, well, have you had a conversation about about tardiness up until, no, you're just writing them down. So if tardiness was going to be that big of an issue of being a few minutes late, and listen, a job has the right to say if we start at 9 a.m., it's 9 a.m. And if they want to have a tardiness policy, that's fine. But you need to enforce it the first time. So the first time you come in, and if you come in at 9:03 a.m. and you don't make it an issue, and then you just sit there and just act like it's okay, that we're not going to break your balls over a couple minutes, okay? Then you're going with that mentality. And so if the first time they bring it up is after all these other incidents that they've documented, well, if it's serious enough for you to document it, why isn't it serious enough for you to bring it up to me in the first place? It all came to a head when I was almost mugged one night in Berry Park and was so shaken I called in the next morning to explain what had happened, and the manager showed no empathy at all. I decided to quit. I lasted 4 months. Luckily, I had another job lined up. This is the first kind of boss I have ever I have this is the first kind of boss type I have seen. The preoccupied one who gets angry when you have a question. Right, because you want to know why he gets angry? Because he doesn't actually know anything. When a boss gets mad, if you're asking questions, especially a new hire, it means that boss doesn't know anything. So now he's going, instead of having to train you, he's going to make some other issue to drive you out, so he never has to be exposed for not actually knowing what he's doing. Then you think, well, how could he be the head of the department, if he doesn't know anything? It happens all the time. People get promoted for their failures. People fail up in corporate America. I have seen it over and over and over again, until department heads and upper management is nothing more than a bunch of fucking losers who failed up. Narcissists do that. They're very good at failing up. You have to understand that. The narcissist is excellent at failing up because it's easier to promote them than to deal with them. That's why that happens. And I've explained this, several times, in my work-related narcissism videos, okay? That human resources, okay, will attack the victim before they will attack the problem, because it's easier to get rid of the problem, okay, the problem, okay, which is the victim, to make the victim the problem than the actual cause. The next bad boss was at a space agency I worked at in Stevenage in the UK in 2002. 2002. My first year there was great. Then they switched managers, and I ended up with a guy who used to yell at me in front of about 50 people in an open office. He would cuss people out all the time, and told a girl in HR to F off once at the top of his voice. So if he's telling HR that means HR is weak. And he knows that HR isn't going to do jack shit to him. This boss type was weird. It was like Stockholm syndrome. He had a daughter who was very ill and almost always seemed to be at death's door every other week. So I felt bad for him, if that's even true. If he even has a sick daughter, or if she's sick, is he embellishing it? So HR says, oh, we can't fire him. He's dealing with this sick daughter. That's why he's acting like this. We can't fire him with a sick daughter at home. That's why. Narcissists will use anything to their advantage. However, it escalated when I started to have chest pains from the stress, and he blocked me from going to a doctor's appointment. Yet, we would still occasionally eat lunch together and sometimes got on well. He was like a Jekyll and Hyde boss. It came to a head when I called in sick one day, and he called my home phone and left a voicemail screaming at me. I resigned and filed a complaint. An investigation was initiated by the company. I was asked to provide a list of witnesses, which I did. One day, one of those people, a friend of mine named Fiona, said nobody had contacted her. Of course not. Of course not. When I asked HR why nobody contacted her, I was told to stop harassing witnesses. You've seen this before, I know. HR forming a guard around the bad boss. The entire thing was a farce, and he was given a slap on the wrist and an anger management course, which he probably would have had to take anyway, because everybody had to take some kind of diversity or anger management, and whether you've done anything, it was broad-based. It's broad-based in corporate America. HR has an incentive to protect the bad boss because they're the ones who allowed somebody to fail upwards. Human resources knows they're failing upwards. Most of the people in human resources have failed upwards. This is what happens in government as well. They fail upwards. I did not have a job to go to in this case, so I was lucky I could move back in with my parents. As a Gen Xer, it was not something I was thrilled about, but within a few months, I got a much better job. I wanted to share that in all these situations, the two I mentioned today and the two from the previous videos. I saw the warning signs early and knew it wasn't going to work, but I was scared of either my resume looking bad because of jobs lasting less than 2 years, and in some situations I was worried about not having a backup job to go to. And that's a problem. Like, I never cared how many jobs you had, but that was always something that, you know, if they have too much employment, if they're constantly losing jobs, you know, that's a reflection on them. Well, yeah, it can be. It could be a reflection as somebody who doesn't play ball. And by play ball, I mean play the game and not be the squeaky wheel. You're supposed to go along to get along in these people's minds in corporate America. Okay? You're not supposed to call out, okay, the bad bosses who fail up. You're not supposed to call out the abuses. So it's not necessarily it's not, they make it seem like that's what the reason why that having multiple jobs, too many jobs on a resume is bad because you just can't hold a job. Okay? Makes sense, but the more you find out about these companies, and these companies are all alike, okay, it makes you think the real reason is like, no, this person's going to be a problem. Because this person's constantly leaving, corporate jobs that have human resources. Okay, that's an issue. It's an issue to them because it tells them you're a squeaky wheel. Okay, and you're going to try to expose them for promoting losers who fail upwards. Of the 4 bad bosses, 2 forced me to leave with no job to go to. One I was fired from as I clung on until the bitter end. In all cases, I was looking for jobs, but with no luck. If any young people are watching, I just want to say, put a little bit of money away when you can. Build up what I call a bad boss escape fund, because eventually you might need it. In life, you never know what you're walking into. Even a good boss initially could leave and be replaced by a little tyrant. Hopefully, younger people can get more of a spine than I did and know how to set boundaries. A lot of my problems in life stem from people taking liberties with me because I am so friendly. And the best way to avoid being working for a bad boss is to be your own boss, is to figure out how you can make money doing something you want without having to answer to anybody. It's possible. It's possible. Is it possible for every single person to do? Probably not. You need businesses. You need companies. I mean, to do. There are things that need to be run by companies, I suppose. But by and large, the best way to avoid a narcissistic boss is to be your own boss. Because in corporate America, in government jobs, in the military, okay, these people fail upwards. Because it's easier to promote them than to discipline them. The final thing I wanted to say was that when I quit the school district, I decided to start my own business. It took me 4 months to build. I ran out of money just as I launched it, and it had to move my wife and I into an Airbnb for a month to borrow money from a friend. We survived and are now in a much better position. So if anyone out there had a bad boss, start thinking about your own business while looking for another job. Okay. Especially if you have a great idea that you can pursue without much upfront capital. My business startup costs were a $300 laptop, a $100 website, and 4 months of my time. I sometimes wonder if I never had the bad boss at the school district if I've ever started the business. Sometimes in life, really bad situations can open up opportunities. And being Gen X, I knew nobody was coming to save me. This is why I decided to figure it out on my own rather than having to forever be at the mercy of a corporate asshole. That's all from me, Ollie. Thanks for everything. I appreciate all the time and thought you put it into commenting on stories like mine. You do a great service to those affected by narcissism, and I'll always be grateful for these videos. The next one for me will be a prequel to the prequel, and tell you all the psychopaths in the UK school system. That video is for another day. Much respect, Mike. Well, I'm glad we are on the same page thinking here, Mike. Okay, that, the best way to avoid a bad boss is to be your own boss. And it is possible, and you're absolutely right. You think you need all this capital and all this money just to start up something. You don't. I started this by just talking into my webcam and posting it in a Facebook group called Chatty Giraffes, and it just popped from in and it went from there. Okay, go back and look at the quality of my early videos, of my first videos. Go look at them. I mean, it's just me on my couch. I mean, it's not much different, I guess, but it's literally me on my couch talking through a webcam mic. Sometimes a shitty laptop mic. I always appreciated that, though, about my channel as well. I don't want it to be this over visualized. I mean, I like my lights and all. Okay. But I like the rawness and the grittiness of it. That's why I read these stories cold. That's why I read them cold, so you get a natural reaction out of it. So, but the point is, you do learn from it. So, sometimes maybe it is good. You go and you get a bad boss and you're a couple bad and you see what's out there and you see that it's all the same, and that you figure out that these people who are in charge are dumber than dog shit. And the only reasons they're in their positions is because they failed upwards. So, hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution and story, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal or Skype and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Refuge from Narcissism. Take care.